Jury reaches verdict in the trial of Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, my Lord. Okay.
Monday in the trial of Ghislaine Maxwell here in New York. The defense resting its case today with Maxwell not taking the stand. The longtime associate of Jeffrey Epstein, she has pleaded not guilty to charges, which include sex trafficking of minors and conspiracy. A former employee of Epstein's testifying that she respected Ghislaine Maxwell and never saw anything wrong. Jury deliberations are expected to begin.
That's it? That's the only tidbit in a 24-second argument about a trial that's gone on for 17 fucking days or more than that, 20 days? That's not the only witness that came up, dude. What the fuck? Oh, this is an old video. Okay, Jesus Christ. So the jury has reached a verdict in the criminal trial of Ghislaine Maxwell, the longtime associate of serial sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who is facing charges related to alleged abuse and trafficking of underage girls. Maxwell faces 6 count of indictment for allegedly conspiring with and aiding Epstein in his sexual abuse of underage girls between 1994 and 2004. She has been held without bail since her arrest in July 2020 and has pleaded not guilty to the charges. If convicted, Maxwell could spend decades in prison. Hold up. Let's take a look. I'm going to see if I can get Brace on and Liz on, even though I made fun of Brace earlier. If you don't come on after the verdict, I will release this soy face photo in my possession. 40,000 people live. But would love to hear blackmail. Yep, that's what I'm doing. I don't know if you guys have seen the soy face photo. There better be mass charges for the fact they released the photos of Epstein's feet and her tits. The damage to people's minds worth the death sentence. No. Whew, this is spicy, dude. This is spicy. Not every day do you ever see justice get served, and I hope this is one of those circumstances that is different, you know? God damn. There's a reporter. Oh, this is one of the reporters in the courtroom, right? Judge Nathan says we have a verdict. Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm giddy. The anticipation. This is crazy. This is madness. This is actually fucking crazy. Whoo. Okay, listen. A lot of people have stated, and by a lot of people I mean the defense, has stated that this basically is a proxy case for Jeffrey Epstein. And to those people I say, yes, but there's nothing wrong with that, because Ghislaine Maxwell is, in my opinion at the very least, guilty of participating, not only participating, but also, you know, handling the logistics of the sex trafficking that Jeffrey Epstein was engaging in. So ABC has an overlay for the verdict.
Some folks were out here mountain biking this morning and saw an aircraft in distress.
What the fuck?
That went down. And
what the fuck? Think it'll help with the overall investigation if she's actually indicted? Well, You can only hope for like just a crumb of fucking solace, which I don't even know if the victims will ever feel that in this circumstance. Because, you know, bit of a background. Brayson Liv said that the prosecution wasn't looking great, but the case is very complicated and Weinstein trial took a similar amount of time to reach a guilty verdict. So the issue here is that there is no like codified law around what we all colloquially understand as grooming, right? When you mention grooming, like, people understand what the fuck grooming is for the most part, but there is no specific law around it. And a part of the prosecution's case in the Ghislaine Maxwell trial revolves around getting the jury to understand that Ghislaine Maxwell, if not directly sexually assaulted, but also made these victims feel more comfortable with the sexual assault by normalizing that kind of sexual behavior, despite the fact that these girls were very young, some 16, some 14 allegedly, and some, 17. And the abuse continued throughout the years. There's a physical participation here as well, but a big part of the aiding and abetting comes from Ghislaine Maxwell's direct involvement in the form of grooming and helping the coercion. So it's like she was participating in it, but also more importantly than participating in it as it pertains to this trial, she was, because the evidence on that is not as solid, but especially because of, how long ago it was, that she was personally normalizing that kind of behavior, like massaging Jeffrey Epstein and trying to get others to, the young girls, to not feel scared about their position. Just don't hide from Greek at TwitchCon. Big man boob having pussy. Dude, I love that. That was great, man. Thank you. Another chatter put it pretty well. If Epstein was driving the vehicle, she pushed the girls on the path of it at bare minimum. Do you think she's going to Epstein in video game herself? No, I don't think so. I'm surprised that she wasn't Epsteined to begin with. So yeah, right now we are waiting on this.
After Epstein killed himself in the Manhattan federal jail cell where he was awaiting his own sex trafficking trial.
That's bullshit.
Back in August of 2019. So they did say that the memories of her accusers were corrupted by the passage of time and the...
Anyway, I don't know when this verdict is going to come in, but hey, if you want to know, if you want to be there for every single second of it, okay, and an uninterrupted broadcasting experience, well, you're going to have to subscribe, because right now it's the top of the hour and I'm hitting you with that ad break and there's nothing I can pause about this. This is real time, unfortunately. But, if you get gifted a sub, if you're lucky enough, then you can avoid it. If you are like, I'm not very lucky, I'm going to make my own luck, then you can subscribe for $5. Okay? Or for free with the Twitch Prime. Here's the 1 minute ad break now. Oh, yeah, we can look at the
So
charges.
just so we know, at this time, we have heard that the jury is going to be brought into the courtroom momentarily. We do have Maxwell, who's in court. So this is just some video of some other folks who we have seen moving around the courthouse here as we've been on
Breaking
this
news!
verdict watch for quite a while. We do know last weekend the jury had decided not to continue deliberations over the holiday.
Let's
weekend,
fucking go! Ghislaine Maxwell found guilty on count 1, not guilty on count 2, count 3 guilty, count 4 guilty, count 5 guilty, count 6 guilty. Found guilty on 5 of the 6 counts. We'll go over them right now. We can't go over them right now because unfortunately it's fucking paywalled. God damn it. Is there an article that shows all the shit that she's, you know? Woo! Oh, shit, dude. Oh, my Lord. Okay. Listen. Why is it not looping? Loop, motherfucker. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and MBs. Adam Klasfeld is the managing director of Law Crime News. Here are some of the counts. Count 1, conspiracy to entice individuals under the age of 17 to travel in interstate commerce with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity. Guilty. Count 2, enticement of an individual under the age of 17, Jane only, to travel with the intent to engage in illegal sexual activity. Unfortunately, not guilty. Count 3, conspiracy to transport individuals under the age of 17 to travel in interstate commerce with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity. Guilty. Count 4, transportation of an individual under the age of 17, Jane only, with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity. Guilty. Conspiracy to commit sex trafficking of individuals under the age of 18. Guilty. Sex trafficking of an individual under the age of 18, Carolyn only. Guilty. Whew. Oh man, that's good. It's kind of wild. It's kind of wild that you know, that justice was served. God damn. Are they not revealing this?
Has been reached. It has been read out. The jury has found Ghislaine Maxwell count 1 guilty, count 2 not guilty, count 3, 4, and 5 also guilty. So we will continue to keep you live outside of the courthouse here. We do have a couple different shots coming in here to our Live Now from Fox desk. So you can see we do have some of our own media personnel standing here as we are waiting to hear some reaction to this verdict. And then we do also have a close-up of those doors just outside of the courthouse. If we do have anyone step up to those microphones, if we see any other pictures coming from outside of this courthouse where they may have been able to catch up with some of those who played.
They have also ordered all of the Epstein Network's docs sealed. Pure evil exists in high places and we won't find out. What the fuck? I don't know what this is. I don't know how reliable that is. Ghislaine Max sentence. This is dope, but kind of sad. Nobody else really got in trouble for anything. I mean, there's like nothing you can fucking do in the situation when, you know,
That's Ghislaine
someone
Maxwell
gets
on your
fucking
screen right there. That
suicided.
tonight was found guilty by a federal jury on 5 of 6 counts, including transportation of an individual under the age of 17 with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity, in sex trafficking, and in sex trafficking conspiracy. Jason Chaffetz, your thoughts on this 5 of 6 guilty verdict return there?
You know, the best belief I have in the justice system is the jury, and the jury listened to it. They came to this conclusion, and hallelujah. There are a lot of women who went through hell, and I hope they feel some sense of justice. I don't think it'll ever make up for the hideous nature in which it was done. That what Jeffrey Epstein and Ms. Maxwell did is just one of the most disgusting.
The sex trafficking part is the worst part of it, okay? Is 40 fucking years, baby.
Essentially spend the rest of her life in jail. And I hope that it is a good hope for those that have suffered these types of injustices, that have been assaulted, whether it's by themselves in an alley or whatever it might be, that justice can prevail. It's hard for these women. I can't even imagine what it's like to come forward and have to testify. I hope the 100 or so that didn't testify are able to speak or show the judge and talk to the judge in the sentencing phase if they want to come forward and talk about this. But there's also a lot more to this story. This guy didn't get prosecuted earlier, and it seemed like he probably should have. And there were a lot of other people that were complicit. And if the federal government's going to do their job, they need to go after those people as well.
Bro, the real suicide watch is not on Ghislaine Maxwell, but Geraldo Rivera, #1 ally to Ghislaine Maxwell throughout this entire process, okay? How the fuck is he feeling? Maybe Fox News should tune in to see what his take is on the matter.
Standing by for any developments today.
Him and Prince Andrew are literally going to go to an island and hang out together to be like, we might be a little fucked, bro.
Wanted to move things along as quick as possible without pushing them too much. And they did come to a decision just in the past 20 minutes or so, as you all just read. Guilty, Ghislaine Maxwell, on 5 out of 6 counts here. That coming out of that federal courthouse behind me just moments ago. As we go through those 6 counts, guilty on all of them except for count 2, which, as we know, is enticing a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts, which carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison. That was the charge that those jurors in that room even asked for a whiteboard, some markers and highlighters as they went and asked the judge to please clarify what enticement meant on those charges. And this comes after about 40 hours of deliberations today on day 6. That
pretty yikes to make fun of Geraldo Rivera when he just lost his best friend. True.
Spike in COVID cases in New York. She wanted things to move along. She was worried that one of those jurors was going to have to go into quarantine, which would definitely disrupt the trial. The jury did have several questions just today. There was about a few notes that were sent out as well. But in the past, during those deliberations, including the holiday break that happened, they had asked 13 questions to the judge, sending out those notes, asking for more testimony, asking to see some more of that evidence. So it was a lot of us out here wondering if it was going to happen, especially because they ended yesterday around 5 o'clock when she asked them to stay an extra hour, saying, hey, I think we're in a good spot. We're going to head home for the night. And the jurors still had a lot of questions, even though today prosecutors telling them that she had groomed and trafficked underage girls to be sexually abused by her former boyfriend, Jeffrey Epstein. And after that long holiday weekend, they came back asking for the testimony from all 4 accusers and wanting the judge once again to clarify that definition of enticement. The jurors were deliberating for hours, but finally coming out, and we had so many people that were on.
Damn, dude, they're coming in hot. Okay, let's watch the ABC News one instead.
Her siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, were seated in the gallery behind her. This verdict was undoubtedly disappointing. The defense said it needed some time to get itself together before it decided on any kind of an appeal. They also revealed that she has not had her booster shot yet, and due to the rapid spread of the coronavirus, they wanted to get Ghislaine Maxwell boosted before they brought her back into court for any kind of sentencing.
Aaron, 40 hours of deliberation. You have been following this case as closely as anyone else. Over the course of the last 3 days, the jury had been asking questions, asking to have testimony read back, even today from the pilot of Jeffrey Epstein's plane. Tell us a bit about what they asked for and what that meant to you leading up to this verdict.
The jury was incredibly thorough. They asked for more than a third of the case. They asked for the transcripts of testimony by 13 of the witnesses, a third of the case. And so they went meticulously through all of the testimony of the accusers and then a number of the supporting characters, plus a couple of the witnesses called by the defense, including a defense expert who testified about the frailty of memory. That was part of the crux of the defense case, was that the whole case against Ghislaine Maxwell, the defense said, was based on made-up stories and the false memories of these accusers. But it appears the jury disagreed and believed the women who testified, including a woman, Jane, identified under a pseudonym, who said that she met Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein when she was 14 years old, beginning years of abuse.
Now, Aaron, you mentioned Jane. Count 2, which she was not found guilty on, is enticement of a minor to travel to engage in illegal sex acts. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? That deals with Jane, right?
It does. The first 4 counts only really dealt with Jane's testimony. And it appears, based on one of the questions that the jury asked, that the jurors were confused by the charge, by all the elements that the government needed to prove in order to find her guilty of enticing Jane to travel.
Chad, is this fucked up? My thoughts are with the Clinton family in this trying time as their close and personal best friend, pictured front and center at Chelsea Clinton's wedding, is going to federal prison for sex trafficking minors. Oh, I'm sending this. I love that every time I ask Chad if it's fucked up, you guys say it is, and then collectively
jurors were given before they began deliberations, and it sounded to the defense like the jury was quite confused about that charge, and they asked for all sorts of clarifications. The judge didn't do it, and in the end, Ghislaine Maxwell was acquitted of count 2. But that was a relatively minor charge that exposed her to only 5 years in prison. The more significant counts she was convicted of.
CK, you are a trial attorney, former president in the National Bar Association. I'm curious, you heard Aaron just describe how meticulous the jury was in their deliberation. 40 hours, asked a lot of questions. On that count 2, and I guess we'll focus on that for a minute because it's the only count she wasn't found guilty on. But on that count 2, they asked for a definition of the word enticement. You heard Aaron say the judge wouldn't give it to them. He'd only refer them back to his instruction. Is that common? What do you make of that?
Actually, that is quite common. When you have jury instructions and the jurors have jury instructions and the judge has read the jury instructions, when jurors ask questions, a lot of times the judge actually will consult with both sides and make a determination as a matter of law whether that judge feels that the jury should get further clarification. On some issues, the judge will go ahead, but on other issues, the judge will just say, you've got to read the jury instructions, because you don't want the judge or either party interpreting more than they already have. Remember, in closing, both sides have the ability to tell the jurors exactly how they want them to interpret the jury instructions. So that they were stuck on enticing, on the word enticing, the definition of that, the judge must have made a determination that the instructions were clear enough and that they should go back and figure it out themselves. And that is not uncommon at all. Judges make those determinations every day because they basically want the jurors to work through as much of the evidence and the jury instructions as possible after they have received their charge.
Criminal defense attorney and former homicide prosecutor Bernardo Villalona joins us often to talk through these cases. And Bernardo, you and I have spoken about this case before here on ABC News Live. I'm curious for your reaction to this. Guilty on 5 of the 6 counts. As Aaron pointed out, count 2 was relatively minor, not for what it stood for, but relatively minor in the years that she could face. Is this just a flat-out win for the prosecution?
Absolutely. This is, I would say, a 100% win for the prosecution, because given Ghislaine Maxwell's age and also the...
Okay, posting the Elon one, I'm going to get assassinated now. Like, I feel like this one is, I'm like asking to be fucking murdered by an exploding Tesla or something. I mean, I did it, but it's a little, that one was a little touch and go.
Against these young girls.
Aaron, there has been so much international attention, not just national, international attention on this case, and some big names were brought up in the courtroom. You said that she was in the presence of, royalty and presidents. Did anything come of that? What happens now that she has been found guilty and all these people may have been sort of attached to her by name?
It's interesting, Phil, that the high-profile names that have been associated with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell, Presidents Clinton and Trump and Prince Andrew and all these other names, they were mentioned, but only in cursory fashion. The defense brought them up, trying, I think, to get the private pilots of Jeffrey Epstein to reveal that they remembered certain people on his flights, but not others who were not as remarkable, say like the accusers who had testified during the trial. But really those high-profile names didn't come up. And the prosecutors charged this case in very narrow fashion. I don't think they wanted the sideshow of all the bold-faced names. They wanted to keep it focused on the testimony of the accusers because they felt all along like the women had strong stories to tell and they would be believed. And it appears that that has now played out as reflected in the jury verdict.
Yeah, and it seems like, as I said, the international attention, the salacious and horrific details as these accusers came out and said what had happened to them. Even today, Aaron, with the jury digging deeper and deeper into this, you talked about the pilot. Today was a question about the pilot, right? About him, his recollection of Jane on that plane.
Jane was 14 years old when she said she met Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein and when she was on Epstein's private plane. And the pilot, Larry Voskowski, recalled Jane on the plane and specifically recalled her piercing powder blue eyes. And that really painted a vivid image. He was the very first witness to testify at trial. And that was a striking way for the prosecutors to begin because in short order, the jury was able to meet Jane and see those eyes for themselves. Prosecutors all along called Maxwell and Epstein partners in crime. And the government argued successfully that she made it possible for him to touch underage girls like Jane, managing the details right down to the lotions and the oils. Phil, prosecutors said that Maxwell was motivated by money and did whatever it took to maintain the glamorous lifestyle that she was leading by Epstein's side.
We're seeing pictures of her defense team right now up on the screen. CK, I want to ask you, being a trial attorney, among other things, how do you think this trial went? I mean, we know the jury was, as Aaron says, meticulous in 40 hours of deliberation. How do you think it was handled by both the prosecution and the defense?
Bro, that's crazy.
Well, I think the prosecution was just
crazy.
as meticulous as the jury. The prosecution told a story,
not all, bruv.
Starting off with the victim
fucking Morgan, bruv.
These are heinous crimes against.
What the fuck are you doing then? What? It's me. You know who actually should be fucking, I mean, not worried, but is probably sad? Boris Johnson.
These types of sexual acts. And also painting the picture that Ms. Maxwell was involved.
Who may or may not have had sex with Ghislaine Maxwell.
Of the way that she was not a distant sort of person who was wowed by Jeffrey Epstein, who just played a little role. She was
sentencing still to come. Ghislaine had trouble standing up afterwards, but otherwise just drank a lot of water.
Very horrific,
huge crowd outside coming down the steps.
Series of events that changed their lives forever. And she was there from the beginning to the middle to the end. So she could not be divorced because initially the defense was trying to deflect. All these important people that were involved, that was just a red herring deflection, including deflection on Jeff Epstein. But her being a partner in crime and painting this picture, being meticulous and bringing in the witnesses and putting all the pieces of the puzzles together.
Come on, bro.
Made it easy for the jury.
How dare you?
They were very diligent, but it made their job not as difficult as they combed through a third of the evidence and saying that she actually was guilty. Now, the defense had a tough job. job. Because here, they have this woman who's a socialite. She's not even a U.S. national. She's British by origin. And she was living a very, very high lifestyle. And they took a lot of gambles,
this is fucking nuts, dude. I mean, I've seen this. This is a joke, though.
And I think that their job typically is to poke holes, throw stuff at the wall, and see what sticks. But in this case, the evidence was so compelling because of the age of these young people and because of how meticulous Jeffrey Epstein is.
I wish Judge Allison J. Nathan a very happy district court position after this.
Of these young girls and these young men.
Or sorry, not district, Second Circuit court position.
You're not seeing anything happen in the courtroom is because it's federal court. We are not allowed to have cameras in there. That's why we rely on Aaron and our producer, Jim Hill. Aaron, I know you have to go. You're working this case. You're extremely thorough for us as well. I have one more question for you. We were just talking with CK about deflection. There was a point in the case where the defense was saying that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein weren't even that close. It wasn't what the prosecution was saying. And then the prosecution brought out these pictures. I think we've shown the pictures at one point or another. Pictures of them being very close, acting, looking like a couple. How important was that, do you think, for the prosecution to the show and for the jury to see?
The defense at one point said, they recovered like 35,000 pictures from the hard drive seized by Jeffrey Epstein, and they were only showing you a select.
The reason why they said that all those other names are a red herring is because they wanted to keep it as narrow as possible. They wanted the focus to be as narrow as possible.
Looking very much like.
Oh my God, that's what Bobby Sternheim looks like?
They were in a sexual relationship for more than a decade. Ghislaine Maxwell.
I'm seeing these images now on my own. It's great.
On behind closed doors. And when prosecutors said she was motivated by money, there they were in exotic locations, arm in arm, together, overseas, and perhaps wearing expensive clothing or in these locations that would indicate the jet set kind of lifestyle. Maxwell never testified. And her attorneys claim that the government really struggled to explain why an Oxford-educated, proper English woman would ever agree to facilitate the sexual abuse of minors. The defense alleged that Epstein was keeping secrets from Maxwell. The defense attorney said everybody knew it except her. And they argued that the case relied on these flawed memories and fabricated stories of the accusers. But in the end, it appears the jury.
Bro, they try to do an officer daddy on Ghislaine, like a prolific sex trafficker. They were like, she's just a little old woman. She doesn't know any better.
Thanks for covering it so closely. Bernard, I want to get to you on something that Aaron just said. I mean, we're talking about an awful lot of money. When they talk about the money and the power and the island and the jets, and the enticement into all of this of young girls who might not have had any other way, and a few $100s, an offer of a few $100s was huge to these girls. And then they get sucked into this world. The jury really not only believed them, but kind of across the board said, yeah, all that money and power and everything else and all the deflection from the defense attorneys. And that's, of course, what defense attorneys have to do. They have to put on a defense. But it seems like the jury in this case just kind of put all that aside, listened to the accusers, and saw it from their perspective. We were talking about the pilot.
I gotta pee. I'll be back.
Jane's eyes. Really saw it through their eyes, right?
Absolutely. I just heard you for that minute. I was thinking that you were preaching about it, because I was in that courtroom when all of this was taking place. And it is so upsetting because it's that exact power, that money, the lure of the lights and the fame and the big house and the bags and the pools, and the man owns an island. This is exactly what Ghislaine Maxwell used in order to entice these young girls that came from vulnerable homes. You got to think that one of these victims came from a home that, actually two of the victims came from homes that were broken, where their parents, their single family parents, were actually alcoholics and drug addicts. And Ghislaine Maxwell preyed upon these girls because it's these girls that actually will be looking for some sign of hope, some kind of help. And Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein took advantage of that oh, I'll help you. You can come hang out in our big old house. But, you know, you're just going to have to give a couple of massages. Ghislaine Maxwell, today is your day. I understand you'll remember December 25th as your birthday, but today, December 29th, you're going to remember it as the day that you were held accountable for your decades of actions as a predator in assisting your lover, your partner in crime, Jeffrey Epstein, in luring and procuring these young girls for your sexual satisfaction.
And CK, when you listen to Bernarda talk like that, when you strip this case down to its bare bones, this is really, when you take all of the celebrity and the money and all that stuff aside, this is really a case of young girls being taken advantage of and abused. And that was the accusation up until today. Now the jury said that is exactly what happened.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. This was a case of young girls, vulnerable, being taken advantage of, discarded once they no longer needed them, and replacing them with other girls. So this is not just a vindication of those young, strong, powerful women that had the courage to testify, but there were probably hundreds of young girls and young women today that feel vindicated, that never had the ability to speak their truth because they were terrorized, because they were intimidated, because they were fearful of what it would mean. So this is a great day of vindication and a great day against people who engage in heinous acts against young children. They were sexual predators, quite simply. And the evidence was overwhelming. It was astounding. There was a mountain of evidence that pointed to that. And even though Jeffrey Epstein either killed himself or, well, he committed suicide, said at least one of the partners in crime who perpetuated these heinous crimes for decades is being held accountable. And for that, we should thank
I respect that. She didn't want to say it.
And we should thank the jury system.
Yeah, I'm sure the judge did.
She said it, but she was like, either killed himself or suicided.
A little bit different than others.
I'll take it.
Aaron said no sentencing day has been set. But what we know about these 6 counts, the one that she was not found guilty on, that enticement count 2, but 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 carry with them 65 years in prison. Aaron, by his estimation, said she probably won't get anywhere near that, but still, with her age and facing decades in prison, she's going to be behind bars for quite some time. But technically, what happens next? How does this proceed? CK.
Well, what happens next, there will be a sentencing date that will be set, and you are going to have certainly impact statements, I would imagine, that will be delivered. She is going to, or the defense attorneys are going to say that, you know, she's a woman of a certain age. She doesn't have a bad criminal history. This is her first time. You know, they're going to plea and make a case for a lesser sentence because of her record, because she's been a decent citizen before her conviction. All of these wonderful things that they believe someone who's a socialite and who's Oxford trained and who has her background should avail themselves of.
Yeah, but except she's still going to jail, baby.
No. These crimes are heinous. They are the worst. They're against children, against young people
who
didn't have the ability to fight. And for that, she should not only receive the maximum, but she should receive maybe even more time because of the heinous nature of the crime and because of the victims. So I think that you're going to see at the sentencing a whole presentation by both sides. On the one hand, why she shouldn't receive as many as she could statutorily be held to, and on the other hand, why she should receive more time.
Bernardo, let's go back and take me back into the courtroom for a second. Not physically, we have no cameras in there, but in your experience, when accusers bring their accusations to a courtroom,
Ghislaine Maxwell's going to prison, baby.
Or just, you know, young women saying this is what happened to me. How does a prosecution kind of push through everything and make sure that their stories are heard, even as they're being, you know, picked apart, which is the job of the defense?
Yeah, because when you're talking about being in a courtroom, when you're talking about the adversarial process, it's all about who can bring the best story inside of a courtroom. From the prosecutor's point of view, the prosecutor is the representative of the people. For example, here's the United
Crazy
States
to
of
think.
America. They represent the United States of America.
How far we have
specifically the Southern
come.
District of New York, where this case was
Where just a
tried.
crumb
So in
of
terms
justice
of
can be
how do you
served
bring a victim story to
towards
light when you're talking
high
about sexual
profile,
assault, you try to question and answer.
royalty
and try to get this
adjacent,
jury to get to
international sex traffickers.
She is reliving, having
Shout out to her family.
engaging in these sexual activities.
This beat.
with Jeffrey Epstein and also Ghislaine Maxwell.
This beat
who
was
played a part. And specifically
to fight
for
international
Jane,
sex
because Jane
trafficking.
was also
Shout out to her
a part
family.
of group sexual activities, unlike the other victims in this case. So in terms of what do you do to try to get 12 people to